Good evening, everyone. It's Mara, and even though I'm a week late, last week the internet, believe it or not, was down both on my phone and at my desktop, so I wasn't able to do the Sharing Wellness Promoting Health Wednesday, so I'm doing it now, so I have an extra one in the month of October. This week I'm going to talk about heart health and healing the heart. Next week I'm going to be sharing a healthy habit about mindful eating and cravings and hunger. So our heart is absolutely miraculous. It's definitely more than just a simple little pump. It's intimately connected with our nervous system and our glandular system. It responds dynamically to the environment, our moods, and our thoughts. And it's what allows us to connect with other people in nature. And it's just, kind of a flow of life with the circulation. A lot of this that I'm sharing tonight was from last month's newsletter on the heart, kind of tweaked a little bit from Stephen Horn. So heart health is a big thing. It's still one of the top 10 killers between heart disease, hardening of the arteries, strokes, heart attacks. So what are the lifestyle improvements that we can do to keep our heart healthy? So one of the biggest things you can do is avoid refined foods. So chronic inflammation is an underlying cause of heart disease, and chronic inflammation occurs from basically poor lifestyle habits and toxins, viruses, bacteria, molds, all those things. But chronic inflammation is an underlying cause of heart disease, and we're going to talk about chronic inflammation in a couple weeks. So you want to avoid refined foods like refined carbohydrates because they really make your insulin levels higher, and those are a big risk factor for heart disease because they increase inflammation. That's why they're always giving you those inflammatory tests when you're diabetic. So you want to keep your blood sugar properly regulated. You also want to avoid processed vegetable oils. All those hydrogenated fats make our tissue, like our arteries, less flexible. Because they're high in omega-6, which increase inflammation. It's also good to follow an anti-inflammatory diet, and that would be comprised of a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables, which contain antioxidants and phytochemicals, which reduce inflammation and plaque formation throughout the body. You also want to eat foods with healthy fats that protect the heart, such as fish, whole milk, dairy, eggs, and nuts. Many of these foods that are high in healthy fats are also high in fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin A, D3, E, and K2, which help our heart and our circulation. They also contain a lot of omega-3 fatty acids, which also help reduce inflammation. You also want to focus on exercise because regular exercises reduces the risk of cardiovascular disease. It strengthens our heart because our heart's a muscle just like our lungs. And it allows it to pump with less effort because it's in good shape. It also helps burn fat, which reduces the workload of the heart. 1 pound of fatty tissue contains a mile of additional blood vessels. So for every pound of fat you have, your body has to produce a mile of additional blood vessels for the blood to flow. We also really need to manage our stress and our anger because stress increases our heart rate and it can contribute to high blood pressure, arrhythmias, and palpitations. High stress people are actually more prone to heart problems, and people who have problems with anger also have higher risk of heart disease. People with loving relations tend to have a lower risk of heart disease and an easier road to recovery. That's why I love animals, because they're so full of love, and I think that they help us with our emotions and they help us keep heart healthy. So learn to control your temper if you have one and do things to help you stay relaxed, happy, and peaceful. And try to develop closer relationships with the people you love, including those little four-legged critters. When the heart and the brain, our thoughts and our feelings are in sync and they act as one, our body has an internal coherence. And this internal coherence gives us a feeling of calm, a loving flow in our lives. We feel connected. We don't feel like we're struggling. We feel, an internal continuity at peace, our integrity when the pulses of our brain and heart are synchronized. So, when we have emotional instability, which are life of the body. An open and loving heart exists in a loving person, and a cold and closed heart usually are in an indifferent person. And the instability of any kind denotes a disturbance of the overall health. So many people can tolerate being trapped in a painful situation as long as we have hope. There's a saying that there's hope as long as a heart beats, and this implies that cardiac arrest is equivalent to a loss of hope. So we must realize that the trap is within, that the heart is imprisoned. So we always want to focus on love, because we want to make sure that our heart stays healthy. And if we are in a situation where we're angry or we feel trapped, you always want to focus on hope, because that's going to get you through it. So there's a lot of flower essences that help with the heart, like if you're grieving or you're angry or you have a lot of different emotions. And some of those flower essences, like bleeding heart, help the body energetically let go of what is lost. They allow love to exist in more free state where you're not so much grieving. Borage, take heart. It promotes hope in adversity. Holly is for people that have jealousy, envy, and hatred. It opens your heart to love. Love lies bleeding, for those people that feel alone and dark within their emotions. Nicotinia energizes a cold and hardened heart that people have experienced from drug or alcohol abuse. Rose and the essential oil and the flower essence and the flower water just really opens your heart to life. It's such, I call it the love flower. Herbicana helps release deep grief and sadness and constriction in the heart. So when we look at the heart and we look at the brain, there's a huge connection between both and our emotions. And it's really important that if you have a loss or you have anger or you have sadness, that's going to affect your overall health, including your heart. I mean, I watched a PBS special one day about broken heart syndrome, where this man who was married to his wife for a really long time, she passed away and left him with a broken heart, and he actually passed away shortly after that. And the doctors explained that there's not really anything physically wrong with the person at that time. They can't put their finger on it. They're not having a heart attack. Their heart's not failing. It's just such an emotional grieving loss that it caused them their own death. And it's really more common than I think people realize. So if you have a matter of the heart, really focus on healing it with oils and flower essences or therapy, so everything kind of stays at once. You also don't want to smoke or vape. Tobacco is a big risk factor for coronary heart disease. It contains hundreds of chemicals that damage and inflame the artery walls as well as the lungs, which can increase your plaque formation. Nicotine actually constricts your blood vessels, could lead to increasing your blood pressure, forcing your heart to work harder. And one's risk of heart disease drops dramatically within 1 year after quitting smoking. So if you do smoke or vape, the CDC and lots of agencies have programs to help you quit. There's also some basic heart healthy supplements. CoQ10 has been known to keep your heart healthy. Gives you some energy because it enhances mitochondrial production. It's also very anti-inflammatory, so it can help with the health of your vessels and gums. It can also, since they are healthier, help reduce high blood pressure. May also help improve your outcome after heart transplants and surgery. Magnesium and potassium are good for overall health and heart health. Magnesium aids in energy production in the heart. It relaxes muscles and reduces stress. It may help with preventing heart disease or heart attacks, and it actually helps to naturally lower blood pressure. Potassium helps regulate the heart rhythm. And many Americans are deficient in both of these minerals. So you can eat foods high in magnesium or potassium, or make sure your multivitamin, if you're taking one, has that in there, or add some magnesium, potassium by itself. L-carnitine is really heart healthy. It transports fatty acids to be metabolized for energy in the mitochondria, improves oxygen utilization in the heart, transports waste materials out of the mitochondria, and it's found primarily in red meat. And a lot of people aren't eating red meat anymore. That is one of the benefits of red meat, is the L-carnitine. There's also L-arginine, which is used to make nitric oxide to dilate the blood vessels, reducing pressure. May help with congestive heart failure, angina. So L-arginine is really good. Vitamin C, D3, K2, and E are all great for reducing arterial inflammation in the body and helping to prevent blood clots, especially vitamin E. Statistics show that heart attacks actually occur most often in the winter when vitamin D levels are at their lowest. So that's interesting. Some of the herbs for the heart is hawthorn berries, the flowers and the twigs. Hawthorn berries in the herbal kingdom, we always say, you know, an herb has an affinity for this, and hawthorn berries have an affinity for the heart. So they're just balancing for the blood pressure and keeping the heart overall healthy. Again, rose, a basic remedy for helping to open up the closed, broken, or hardened heart. It softens the heart and promotes hope, love, and happiness. It works again as a flower essence or as an essential oil. The flavonoids in rose hips are also good for the circulatory system, so you can take sometimes you'll notice vitamin C with bioflavonoids, and that or actual herb of rose hips, and those are really full of vitamin C and the flavonoids and heart healthy. And members of the rose family tend to have an affinity for the heart in general, as well as hawthorn berries. There's also, if you're under you need to relax, there's a lot of nervines for the heart, like passion flower, lobelia, and skullcap. They can be very helpful for normalizing the rhythm, strengthening your beat, balancing your blood pressure, supporting a healthy heart overall. You know, when we look at the top 10 diseases, you know, there's coronary artery disease, where plaque forms in the arteries of the heart. That's affects about 18.2 million adults, or almost 7% of the population above 20. That disease is best prevented with lifestyle changes as exercise, eating healthy, managing stress. There's also cardiac arrest or heart attacks, and that's caused by an obstruction of the coronary arteries that actually affect part of the heart muscle and actually kill it. That requires immediate medical assistance. So that is one of the top 10s. Arrhythmias are irregular heartbeats. Typical symptoms include heart palpitations, bouts of a rapid heartbeat, anxiety, dizziness, pounding in the chest, fatigue, sweating, blurred vision. You know, if you have any of these symptoms, maybe you want to mention that to the doctor next time you see it. If you do have arrhythmias, they say to avoid stimulants like caffeine and tobacco. Things like decongestants with ephedra, licorice root, and peppermint oil. You want to keep your potassium and magnesium up, calcium as well. And then things like hawthorn that just support a healthy heart are always beneficial. Then the most common form of arrhythmia is AFib, and the CDC estimates that by 2030 about 12 million people will actually have AFib. And AFib is very difficult to treat naturally and typically requires medical intervention. Things that can help may be hawthorn, magnesium, and potassium. Then you have that rapid heart rate of tachycardia, which a lot of people experience when they're stressed. And then there's herbal remedies for calming, and that would be passion flower, motherwort, lobelia, skullcap, or a Chinese decreasing formula for the fire element. Bradycardia is when your heart rate's really, really slow. And sometimes, you know, when people stand up too quickly and they get dizzy, that's what's actually happens. It occurs temporarily. And there's capsicum, nettle, ginseng that may help. Palpitations, irregularities in the heartbeat. Could be congenital congenital or inherited. And again, you know, Hawthorne. Cardiomyopathy is a heart muscle disease, and it's when your heart does not pump efficiently. Muscles may be too relaxed or too constricted. They may become enlarged. It often goes undetected. And the CDC estimates it affects about 1 in 500 people. I actually think a girlfriend of mine in my early 20s had this, and they were treating her for anxiety when it was actually this inherited cardiomyopathy. And then there's heart failure, and the CDC suggests about 6.2 million Americans suffer from heart failure. It's typically treated with drugs or surgery, including heart transplants. So, you know, when you look at the chronic diseases of today, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, certain types of cancer, a lot of these, the CDC are classifying as lifestyle diseases because our lifestyle greatly impacts our outcome. And it's really important that we all make an effort, especially coming out of this pandemic, to keep our immune system and our body as strong as we can. You know, I love the Soki products because they're based on traditional Chinese medicine, which is all about the flow of energy and the balance of the meridians in the organs. These products promote circulation and movement. You know, I love the Chi Machine far infrared therapy, which is a thermal therapy, and the bioelectric therapy with negative potential energy. So I hope you learned something tonight that may be helpful. You know, hawthorn's a great herb for the heart. Rose is a great essential oil or flower essence, among many others. If you are at sorts with yourself emotionally, you know, find something balancing to help you, because it is a matter of the heart. So they say our emotions really affect our heart. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. I'm going to be talking about mindful eating, being aware of if we're hungry, if we're craving, what we're eating and why, which helps you learn a little bit about yourself and maintain a healthy weight. So thanks for joining me tonight. I hope everybody's doing well.